Before we start work with the chainsaw, we're going to need to refuel it because we don't store the chainsaw with fuel in place. The fuel goes in the fuel compartment, which has the petrol and oil symbol. And the other thing I really like about this particular can is that it comes with its own handy dandy funnel, which is one less thing you have to take into the forest. Try not to overfill it. The reason that we have a plastic bag underneath is because just in case we do overfill it, we don't want that fuel to get onto the ground because it can contaminate the forest. So we're very careful about that. If you have it on an impervious surface like a plastic bag, it will just evaporate off eventually. You can see that over time your bag gets a bit damaged, but that's why a garbage bag is good, because it actually has those two layers and you've got that safety net underneath. Now, we put the bar oil in the front. If you can't unscrew the cap very easily, you can always put your chainsaw tool in there and just twist it. Some of the newer models actually have a little flip handle thing that comes off and makes it much easier to twist, so that's always good too. Now, a word about chain oil. This is, as I said before, not the same as two-stroke oil. It's also not the same as four-stroke oil like you'd put in your car engine. It is specifically chain oil. It doesn't matter what brand you get as long as it is chain and bar oil. It comes in a 1 litre container or a 5 litre container. We usually have a big 5 litre container that we refill the 1 litre container from. That's a much more reasonable amount of stuff to put in the container. You should try and keep the neck clear if you can, so that you've got room for the displacement of the cord when it goes back in. Again, same for the fuel compartment, but I just miscalculated there. And then you're ready to go, basically. It's much cheaper if you buy the 5 litres of chain oil than keep buying 1 litre all the time, although you won't go through it too quickly. It's not like the fuel, it won't go off from season to season, so you can hang on to a 5 litre container for as long as you need to. In order to start your chainsaw safely, you want to find a bit of flat ground. You want to double check that your chain brake is on, and then you want to put your starter lever in the cold start position. So again, squeezing the throttle, push it all the way to the bottom, and then release the throttle and it'll stay there. Or right-handed, it's easiest if you point the bar to the right and kneel on top of the chainsaw, putting most of your weight through your thigh and as directly into the top of that as you can, so that the chainsaw doesn't jump around when you pull the starter cord. You put your left hand on the rear handle on top of the throttle lock lever, but don't have your fingers anywhere near the actual throttle. And then you pull it. It's pretty straightforward, and doing it this way means that the chainsaw won't jump around too much. The way to pull the starter cord is with a strong, smooth motion from the shoulder, not from the elbow. So you're actually using your whole arm as much as possible to try and keep that as smooth as possible. The other way to safely start the chainsaw, if that feels a bit uncomfortable or you're not confident getting down low and getting back up again on the ground, is to stand on the chainsaw and do a semi upright starting position. I don't advocate drop starting chainsaws because it's just not safe, so we're not even going to cover that. In order to do a left-handed start, you point the chainsaw to the left, and you can either put your toes through the handle from this side, but mine don't fit because of my steel cap boots, or you can stand on the handle with your heel from the opposite side. You put your right hand on top of the bar, the handle here, to push down with your weight through your arm to stop it jumping around, and you pull with your left hand. This is not going to be as smooth because I'm right-handed, but again, it's a strong pull from the shoulder as smoothly as possible. So I'm going to do this a few times until we get to the cough point. Hear the difference in the engine? That's your cough point. So what we do now is we put the choke in the warm start position, and this is where it gets loud, folks. So in order to back off the throttle, the choke, you just squeeze the throttle once and it will go into that idle speed, which was the second running sound you heard. And then if you need to turn it off, you just put it in the 0 position, which is off. Again, to show you that priming function, now that we've got some fuel in it, hopefully you can see that now it's full of fuel. Most manufacturers will recommend that you prime the machine, whether it's a chainsaw or a lawnmower or whatever, 3 times, but I find that 6 or 7 is actually a much better proposition. So you pull your choke all the way out, you make sure your ignition switch is on, that's off, that's on, check your chain brake, and we're good to go. Again, hand on the lever. This one's a little bit more uncomfortable to kneel start because of that screw button, but you can still do it. It's also a bit newer, so the compression's a bit better. And there's your burp. Took a little while to get there. If you push it all the way in, just very gently pull it halfway out. I find the horizontal chokes are a little bit harder to work with than the vertical ones, which is another point in Still's favour.